All right, Climate Minister Chris Bowen says the government isn't interested in playing the blame game over why more than 1,000 jobs could be lost at the Tomago aluminium smelter. As you know, the plant could close by 2028 because of rising electricity costs. Let's bring in now senior energy analyst at MST Financial, Sol Kavonic. Sol, good to see you. So how much is the government, in your opinion, to blame for Tomago's possible closure?
Well, it was exceptionally rich for Minister Chris Bowen to say he doesn't want to play the blame game, because if he was to play, a lot of the blame is going to end up on his doorstep. It's worth bearing in mind, so we've got the 1,200 jobs at the Tomago smelter, but this comes on the heel of a lot of manufacturing closing across Australia because of high prices and unreliable energy supply. We've had the Queenos Plastics manufacturing precinct in Victoria shut down. We've had Alcoa's smelter in Western Australia. We've had glass manufacturer, Oceania Glass, shutting down after 170 years here. And we've had the Whyalla Steelworks that need to be bailed out. Those are just the companies, remember, who are big enough to have the lobbying presence to make the headlines. There are many, many other smaller and mid-sized manufacturers who are shutting down because of high power prices. And the irony here is the Labor Party, which was founded by a blue-collar union, is actually presiding over the biggest demise in blue-collar manufacturing jobs in a generation, all going back to failed energy policy since 2022, which has driven up prices and unreliability so that our big energy-intensive manufacturing sectors can no longer survive.
National Senator Matt Canavan has said that the Prime Minister should apologise for using the Tomago smelter as a photo opportunity in his election campaign. I mean, that was, just in January this year, but now appearing to leave workers in the lurch. Do you think there should be an apology here from the government, given the smelter has cited high electricity costs as one of the biggest issues?
Well, Albanese was there earlier in the year touting the green future and the provision of Australia, the government green credits for Tomago. And now we're seeing it shutting down. And the whole point is, when you've got this is like a patient who's bleeding out on life support, and the government's come like a natural healer and saying you should do crystal therapy. They actually need cheaper, reliable power right now. They don't need the promise of maybe getting a green credit in the future from green power, which may or may not arrive, given all the problems in our energy policy, which is not, remember, it's not just causing a slowdown in fossil fuel generation, but it's actually holding back a lot of renewable generation as well. Everyone's turned out to be a loser here. And I really think we should see ministers right up at the Tomago site in the high vis, explain to the workers what's going on and what they're actually going to do to change the course going forward.
But of course they won't do that. They'll be nowhere near it now. Do you think we're going to see more businesses, particularly in the manufacturing sector, potentially shut just because of high regulation and energy costs?
Absolutely. This is just the beginning. Every time you see a big manufacturing facility like this shut down, it actually then has cascading effects on the ecosystem around it. And you see a lot of medium-sized manufacturers often close off the back of it. Now, it's worth bearing in mind, particularly coming, just listening to your previous segment, what's happening now globally and the national security risk pose is making securing our critical supply chains all the more important. It's making sure we can win in the AI race all the more important. All of this is anchored on having an energy advantage. And Australia's had that energy advantage for decades, and it's now been lost over the last several years. And our policy has deserted our blue-collar jobs. We've seen our policy desert Australia's energy advantage as it panders to this kind of green fringe and activist group. And now we're all starting to pay the price, and it's Australia's workers in manufacturing plants who are paying it the most severely right now.
That's terrible.